So it's time for another channel update. This one comes in response to a recent decision by Patreon to terminate my creator page. Before I get into the details of what led to this termination, or at least what I expect led to this termination, we're going to go over a little bit of history as to what led to my streaming to Twitch. What ultimately brought me to the Twitch platform was the Xfire gaming software, which was a messenger designed specifically for PC gaming. Unfortunately, this software came to its ultimate demise after new management took over. We will not be going into details regarding it, but the specific point here is we're going to look at the streaming capabilities that became available through that software. My early streaming to Twitch was not that of gameplay or having fun. At the time, I had managed to acquire a position with Xfire as the head of Xfire game support. I was the person who not only fixed existing support for games that Xfire supported, I also added new game support. During these testing periods of the Xfire in-game interface, I gained fairly extensive knowledge of how to stream to Twitch, which I would not have had if not for the Xfire software. After the loss of that position, I found myself spending a lot of time playing video games while trying to get new employment. Unfortunately, in my search to try and get new employment, I found there were some companies out there that apparently make a habit of taking advantage of those who are disabled. In regards to those disabilities, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but those who have been following my Twitch channel over the years knows that I am usually pretty open about them. Just this video is not exactly the place to be discussing them. In any case, that company, as I said, took advantage of the disabilities, ended up getting free labor out of me. I didn't even get paid what was expected for time worked, and ultimately Social Security contacted me stating that I had not reported a new job that I had managed to acquire. Unfortunately, I didn't actually acquire that job. If anything, I was going through a week of training. It was supposed to be paid training, but I still didn't get a cent out of it. All I got was the cleanup of trying to explain to Social Security that this job that was reported as me gaining was not actually gained. And in the end, I was still looking for work with no income outside of the disability benefits. This particular experience actually scared me, that I would run into more attempts of employment where businesses would actually continue taking advantage of the fact of knowing I have disabilities and attempting to get free labor. So eventually I gave up on trying to get standard employment where that was the expected outcome. I looked at other possibilities, and ultimately I determined that if I was going to be getting a new job, basically it would be running my own business. I have extensive computer technician experience. If anything, we were looking at possibly an in-home computer technician, computer repair, and computer upgrade business, with maybe the possibility of building computers on the side for people who wanted brand new computers capable of what they're shooting for. In any case, that goal has not been reached, and I ended up finding myself spending more time gaming and streaming to Twitch to pass my time while trying to find other forms of employment. I had been streaming fairly regularly to Twitch for probably roughly 6 years. And then in 2018, my streaming started to slow down due to health issues with a physical complication that required surgery. This surgery has already been completed once, but unfortunately, due to complications, it needs to be done again. And because of this, I've had additional health issues on top of it that has limited my ability to be able to continue streaming regularly like I was doing up until 2018. It was roughly 2018 that I found out about Patreon, and in the beginning I was extremely skeptical of the platform. Let's just say I tried to support one of them and basically got screwed over by the creator that I was paying even minimally into their project. Let's just say that I ended up finding out that this particular creator did not live up to his statement of what would be provided. And I already knew this could happen because of the fact that this had happened with another one, which was probably the largest game development project on the entirety of the Patreon platform. In any case, going over YouTube videos and whatnot, I noticed that a lot of people were pushing towards Patreon being the ideal platform if you are a creator. The term creator in this case can be anything from creating your own videos, live streaming, or in the case of the guy that, took my money and did not provide what he said he was going to do, game development. Well, I ended up learning the hard way over those two game developers that you do not want to be supporting game development projects over Patreon. If you want one where you know you're going to get something out of it and you're not going to get stiffed, you better go on to a platform such as Kickstarter or even Steam. I mean, some of those have not yielded results and they got pulled from the store. But that's the point. They are at least held to a standard where they have to provide what they're saying. Otherwise, they're going to cut them off because they are not living up to their claims of what they are going to provide in getting payment through those platforms. Game development aside, as I stated, YouTube videos were claiming that if you're a creator, this is the best way to make a living, to gain income. So I ended up converting my account on Patreon to a creator account to help fund the streams I was doing on Twitch, as well as maybe a little bit towards my YouTube channel. Around the same time, I managed to acquire affiliate on Twitch, which really only happened because at the time I was streaming the Save the World mode in Twitch, and some of the larger Save the World channels, at least at that time, noticed and supported smaller streamers such as myself. Through their raids, I managed to reach the minimum for affiliate. In either case, affiliate through Twitch, Patreon, even having a tipping system through Stream Elements, I wasn't really gaining anything. This wasn't until I met an individual who had come to my stream on Twitch, a fellow Fortnite player, or Save the World player, not to be confused with Battle Royale. He wanted to help out and was my first ever subscriber through Patreon. Now, this individual, I'm not going to get into the details on who he is, where he lives, or how much I gained through Patreon, until Patreon ultimately decided to look at the details on my Patreon page and make the determination that I was in violation of their terms of service. Ultimately, that violation turned out to be, I believe, a misunderstanding on their part. And this is because they looked at the posts, which were the game giveaways on that were posted directly to Patreon as an additional benefit to subscribers over Patreon. Well, those game giveaways were not the only benefit that were given as being a subscriber to my Twitch channel over Patreon. But from the looks of it, this is the only thing that was taken into account when Patreon chose to terminate my creator page. Before we get into those specific details, I'm going to start going over a few things here regarding what led up to the slowdown. We're already aware of health issues. There was also costs of continuing to run, as well as living expenses. The switch of my ISP ended up leaving me with an upload rate of a mere 3 megabits per second, which after some testing in February of 2020, I ended up finding out was not enough to be able to continue streaming online multiplayer games. While continuing to stream single-player games was still an option, online multiplayer games not only required a large amount of upload bandwidth to be able to stream those games on sites such as Twitch or YouTube. You also needed a higher amount to make those games still functional, to where that upload rate did not hinder the playability of the games. Bandwidth tests in February of 2020 showed that even though I was still attempting to stream at that time, it was clear I could not continue streaming those online multiplayer games with the limited upload rate that CenturyLink now provides, or shall I say offers, even though it's capable of higher upload rates. So this was ultimately the largest slowdown to the channel, even though knowing I could still stream single-player games. From experience, I knew if I streamed anything other than Fortnite, I'd be losing followers. Well, we'll get into further details on that once I go over what's happened with the Patreon shutdown. At this point, I'm going to start going over details regarding the switch. Here you can see that I had been doing regular speed tests. And prior to this date, 5/21/21, I was getting the speed that I was supposed to. However, roughly the 11th was the first day I noticed I was getting frequent disconnects. And as you can see, the upload rate and the download rate was roughly half what I should have been getting under CenturyLink, or at least for what I was paying for. After speaking with them over the phone, it looked like it was corrected at one point on the 14th. So I canceled the service appointment to have him come work on it, but then after a short nap, it ended up having the same problem again. So because I still had the email, I rescheduled it through the email, and they came out the next day. They fixed the connection, and as you can see here, 37, so that's close to the 40 that I should have been having. But additionally, you're going to see this upload rate. The technician, when I was speaking to a neighbor about my low upload rate and pointing out that I had to stop streaming because of the low upload rate, that he wanted to test what the capabilities of what I could receive at my house. And in testing it, he put it at a 20 megabits per second upload rate just to see what I could get. As you can see, I was getting close to 14 megabits per second. But in continuation, he left it there. He did not bring it back down. Because he did not bring it back down, I decided to start taking advantage of it. And in doing so, I started doing a number of streams to Twitch again. Call it coincidence or call it what you will, ultimately Patreon decided to close my creator count. Earlier this morning, I received an email from them which stated violation of TOS. According to this, they are stating, because the core of your campaign was focused on collecting and sharing content that you did not create yourself, my team has removed your page. Okay, so for people who have been following the channel, watching the channel, even those that were trolling the channel, they are fully aware that the Patreon funding was not for the purpose of sharing game giveaways. It was for the purpose of funding the ability to continue streaming to Twitch. In any case, the shutdown of it, I wasn't amused. That much is clear, especially if I'm going to take a screenshot of the email they sent me and put it online to show the results of their actions. So my response obviously is a very extended response, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of it could be considered as threatening. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. The blog, for those who are aware of my Twitch channel, is linked off of the Twitch channel, so you can find the post there regarding this matter. But now we need to get into the details of what ultimately shut down the page. As I stated before, they are under the impression that all I was doing was sharing game giveaways that I found on other sites, which was not accurate. When you look at what I have been streaming, I have plenty of videos that have been streamed on Twitch. These are mainly highlights, very few uploads. And even in the video producer, I have 146 saved videos on my Twitch. Now that might not seem like a lot. I mean, especially when you look at what is on YouTube. I did a count of what I had on YouTube the other day, and I have almost 550 videos on YouTube that were not taken into account by Patreon when they made this decision. Additionally, Twitch and YouTube were not the only places. Steam also gives you the ability to link your videos over from YouTube. And as you can see, there are currently 409 videos on my Steam profile, which is clear there is no lack of content here. But again, this was content that was not taken into account by Patreon when they made their decision. Now, sure, there are a lot of videos that I can see people would not be interested in watching, particularly when you come down to videos such as technical issues in games. But let's face it, when you have a video of a technical issue in a game and you send it to the developer, this is the quickest way you get something fixed, when they can actually see what is happening in a game. That should not be happening that way. Other stuff that was being done mostly was, shall I say, wall of shame videos, which was people who, well, in the example of Fortnite, pretty well sit there doing nothing, expecting to benefit from other players' effort. Or they come in and simply choose to be problematic, to cause problems, to grief, to simply push buttons to get people to blow up at them. And I know for a fact there are some channels like this on YouTube that actually do that, just for the laughs. In any case, acting like a fool is not amusing, and neither is this decision by Patreon. So at this point, the video is going to turn to what is currently being done in response to their decision to shut down the page. So as you are already aware, there is this post to my Twitch blog, which not only gives their response when they chose to close it, but also my response to them. So as stated before in this, I was going to write some reviews. A lot of people are already aware I have my own site and I do reviews on it. Originally I was doing these reviews over free services, but I found these were prone to easy abuse of report function to quickly get them taken down, de-indexed from search engines, and ultimately fall into the depths of the internet where nobody could find them. So I found that by renting my own server space and writing my own reviews to my own site, they did not disappear as quickly. I mean, outside the fact that I found Google in Google Analytics, they are negating probably close to 98% of the site, but they still show up in search results because other search engines are still caching those results. After I sent them this reply, I started going to other sites and writing other reviews. One of the first ones was this one. This is a Google Play app of the Patreon app. Now, I'm not going to get into details what it says. You can go find it. Besides, it might end up being published to my personal site anyways. I have backups of everything that has been published. Then we got the Google Maps. This is another review right now that displays this same situation. Shutdown of the account, incorrectly shut down, I might add, and where the full details were not taken into account before they made the decision. Now we're looking at the Better Business Bureau. Well, clearly there's a lot of unhappy people here. Now I'm not going to go through their reviews, and additionally you're going to see that my review is not here yet. Well, I just published it. It can take over a week for it to show. But my review is right here. It is backed up and likely to be published to my own personal site if it looks like it is not going to be published here. Then we got the Norton one. Now, note that this one went back 1 year ago. So basically, this one was originally posted at the time that I got screwed by that other quote-unquote game developer that was not following through on his responsibilities that he set himself. And it wasn't just me. He was gaining roughly $20,000 per year. I mean, not per year, per month. And this went down significantly as he continued to not provide what he was supposed to. Eventually, he actually, from the looks of his page, stopped that project and switched over to another one. So, even though he made a claim that anybody who pays $20 throughout the development of the game would get a copy of that game upon its completion, the problem is it doesn't look like it is ever going to get completed, and nobody will ever get what they paid for, because now the whole project has switched over to a new one. It's a completely different game style. In any case, enough about that. We're going to go back to why this video has been started, and that is the shutdown of my page. Now, I stated that that other one was gaining $20,000 per month. I was gaining less than $100 per month. I was getting $100 per month gross. That was before transfer fees, before collection fees by Patreon. In any case, those fees were what was allowing me to start getting out of debt. As you can see right here, and this isn't the highest it's been, this has just been the highest that it was prior to, well, I mean the highest it's been since I started keeping track. $10,900 debt. Around the time that the COVID stimulus checks started coming, this started allowing me to start paying back my debt, the back rent that was owed. Additionally, in 2021, Medicaid, or Department of Workforce Services, also stated that because I had been paying it without issue for basically the entirety of 2019, I wouldn't have to continue paying the Medicaid spend down. I won't get into details why that spend down is there. It is something I can discuss on Twitch. It is something I have discussed on Twitch. But for now, let's just get into the details of regarding the debt. In combination with the stimulus checks, as well as not having to pay the Medicaid spend downs, this allowed me to eventually start getting out of debt. You can see I got my debt almost down, almost $2,000 within that time. That may not seem like a lot when you still got this much left, but it helped, and the Patreon income also helped in paying those expenses. If anything, the inclusion of the Patreon along with those other two factors allowed me to start paying back almost monthly the debt that I had. However, when you go back to previous months where I still owed the Medicaid spend down, you can see there was increasing debt as a result. Some months I could not pay it all. The Patreon income, at the very least, allowed me to at least start paying it back, and in months where if I didn't have it, I would have continued gaining debt. Unfortunately, the cutoff from Patreon is likely to result in more cuts in expenses. That means even though I was getting roughly 3 megabits per second, which did not allow me to continue streaming online multiplayer games, it did at least allow me to do single player games. With the streams as it is on my channel now, my primary game has changed to Dauntless. It is no longer Fortnite, and it's because I don't exactly like where Save the World is going, or as I look at it, not going. So because of that reason, I've switched my primary game, and the result is, unsurprisingly, I'm getting losses in followers almost every time I stream. Regardless of the losses of followers, I just determined because Fortnite is no longer my primary game, I just decided to accept it. Eventually, this boost is going to disappear, and I'll be back to the 3 megabits per second. But even with the 3 megabits per second, I still had the option to stream single player. Unfortunately, with the Patreon income now out of the picture, unless they decide to reverse their decision, that is, I may not be able to even continue paying for the 3 megabits. The result of that means that my Twitch channel, there's not gonna be live streams anymore. I won't even have the option for single player game streaming, because this has negated the income that was helping me pay my bills, that was helping me get out of debt. And ultimately, when I have to start paying the Medicaid spend down again, this is going to be pretty well the death of my Twitch channel. Of course, the Twitch channel will still be there, but as far as live streams, it won't be an option anymore, and this comes in direct response, or result, rather, of Patreon's decision to close the creator page for a false reason, because they did not do the research to find out what the channel was for. All they did was looked at the posts that were on the creator page and figured that's all that was being offered. Now, obviously, the streams themselves, that wasn't the only thing that was being offered. It was a large part of why the creator page was opened. But other stuff that was being offered was through the Stream Elements store. These were literal game activation keys that I have spares of. And you see, you could spend the points you were gaining as a subscriber over Twitch, as a subscriber over Patreon, for cheering to the channel, for tipping to the channel. You got bonus points every single time you did that. And the payout on Patreon had a higher payout than direct subscriptions over Twitch itself. In any case, this video shows that there are additional perks that were not taken into consideration when they closed the page. And because of their decision, ultimately this will be the death of online streams to my channel. So ultimately, that is where we are at right now. My Twitch channel live streams, if this is their ultimate decision, it's going to show that those will be coming to an end. At this point, I'm going to hope that they look at the facts, what has been provided, what has been stated in this video, and they make a decision to reverse their decision that my creator page needed to be shut down because they made a hair-trigger decision that I was in violation of their terms of service. When you look at the reality of it, I looked at their terms of service in detail. I'm one of the few people who actually do this. And one of my original views on a perk was going to be free game raffles, basically where viewers could win a raffle by paying a small amount of points, and one lucky viewer would get it. Of course, that didn't happen. I looked at their terms of service and I saw raffles was not an option under their terms of service, so I abandoned that view. Of course, at this time, this is also where I started transferring the points over for the store. The games you are seeing here, where people could spend those points and get games from the store. Again, not taken into account by Patreon when they closed the creator page. So currently this is where we're at, and the expected demise of live streaming to my Twitch channel. Depending on it, whether that is where it's going to go or not is still to be seen. It is my belief at this point that Patreon has made their decision and it is going to remain closed. But we shall see, and I will give an update over the blog once I know better. But as it is now, the expectation of live streams on my Twitch channel are pretty well rotten. For lack of a better word, rotten, dying, soon to be dead. So we'll see where it goes from here. See if Patreon does reverse their decision. And if they don't, well, I guess I'll still be uploading videos to YouTube, but there will not be any more additional content on Twitch unless I choose to upload to Twitch. Note that uploads to Twitch, as with this video, end up being lower quality than what you would see on YouTube. And for that reason, I would suggest that you go watch this video on YouTube rather than Twitch if you want the higher quality. As a final note, I'm going to point out that even if the Patreon page does get reinstated and they reverse their decision, in all likelihood, those that were subscribing through the Patreon page, the payments or the subscription that was there will have to be reinstated, which in all honesty I don't expect is going to happen. So even if the Patreon page does get reinstated, there would still have to be income coming through it. So the closure of the page, even if it does end up being temporary, still is the death of online streaming on my Twitch channel, unless those that were providing income or support through it choose to pick it back up, and they're going to have to do it manually. Reality of it is I do not expect that to happen, and I would be surprised, I mean beyond surprise, I would be amazed if somebody actually did that. But before that factor can even be brought in play, Patreon needs to make a decision as to whether this was really necessary. Now, I don't intend on creating a new page. Ultimately, they have to make a decision, and through their decision, that will be the deciding factor as to whether I come back to using their platform. Additionally, I've made a vow that if not reversed, if it remains in this state, not only am I not going to be supporting any creator through the Patreon platform, I won't be supporting creators at all through any means that are openly stating they have an account on Patreon. At this point, I don't care if it's a creator account or not. this action that they have taken against somebody who was following their terms of service and chose to say, violation, you are no longer welcome on this platform. Well, that's just it. If you're going to twist the rules in this manner to punish somebody who was following your rules, I am not going to support anybody on that platform, nor am I going to support anybody through any means who even has an account on there, regardless of whether it's a creator account or not. If you see this video, Patreon, take this into account. This is what happens when you penalize people that do follow your rules. Not only do you alienate yourself, you also alienate the other people that are still on your platform. Think about it and decide whether this action was really necessary. At this point, this video is done. Where the channel goes, that remains to be seen. Updates will be made available on the blog. Also note that I also have a backup of this video in case it needs to be republished to another site. As I expect, it will probably be removed. So, as habit has it, I keep backups in case they need to be republished. Remains to be seen. Good day to all who actually stayed throughout the duration of this video. And I hope that at least you still have a good day. We'll see what happens.